Welcome to the CastOFF. Matinee Heroes presents CastOFF. I'm your host, Craig Price, and we have a great show for you as we wrap up the first round of the tournament. This is the show where two contestants compete by recasting your favorite actors in movies you love. And tonight we've got a new fan favorite, but before we get to them, let's look back at what happened last week. Last week we had a rematch, our first rematch of the season, as the all-knowing, all-seeing Patrick Beatty went up against Kerry Gordon once again, and the more things change, unfortunately, the more things stay the same, as Patrick beat Kerry Gordon once again to move on to the second round, where he will be in a rematch with Rob Irvin from last year's playoffs. Last year's, I keep thinking it's last year. It's only been a couple months. These are seasons. These are television seasons. They go by quick. But tonight we have a great matchup of newbies, and let's get to our new folks getting ready to battle it out. Music. I just like the music. I paid for it. I better use it. All right. In this corner, not quite a newbie, but he has been on before just once, Jake Dietz from Stolen Droid Network. And from the East Coast, our only East Coaster ever to appear, Ben Jones. How you guys doing tonight? Go ahead.
Doing well.
Happy to be here.
I'm pushing buttons and it's just going slow. There you guys are. And so we've got Jake. You've been on before, and it's been you're all lamed up. I didn't even know that when you got in. How are you feeling?
Doing well, recovering well. Down to one leg, but that's all right. One's better than none. But yeah, I'm doing great.
And how are the kids reacting to the fact that Dad's not as mobile as he used to be?
They're taking advantage of it at every opportunity they can. So, which is expected with kids.
Are they like sitting farther away from the couch so you can't get to them as fast?
That's right. No, they've actually been very, very helpful, to be honest. They've been willing to help with whatever I need. So good kids.
And you have 6 of them, right?
Yes.
So we are all ready to play basketball
and
and substitute one in once in a while.
That's right. We've got a 6-man off the bench ready to go. So
one last thing before we move on to our Stolen Droids. You are the new president.
I am. I don't know what that means. I think it just means I'm the pretty face in front of the camera, which is showing you we had to scrape the bottom of the barrel for a pretty face. So
yeah, I'm trying to think about who else is on there, and you're not wrong. It's just that the Stolen Droid Network is not known for its the beauty.
No, that's why we do podcasts mostly, and don't spend a lot of time in front of the cameras. So.
Well, I can certainly see why, but you're representing quite well with your new haircut and your new background. You've got all your science fiction up on the wall. But we have to move on to the East Coast. Our first person up late, it's 9 o'clock there. Ben Jones from the Big Water Brewery. How are you, Ben?
I'm doing well. It is later out here and very dark, but doing well out here.
You got the Christmas tree lit up. You're doing fine. We can see you. We can hear you. You're doing great. You just had a big snowstorm. But explain Big Water Brewery and what you specialize in.
I'm a small 3-barrel nanobrewery right in my garage, and it yields about 1,000 12-ounce bottles, and I specialize mostly in sour ales right now.
Do you do any weird flavors, or are they just pretty straight shooters? You don't do anything like crushed cherry or some kind of weird pomegranate?
When I started out, I actually did a Belgian triple aged in a peppercini barrel, which was an interesting seller.
My mother would love that. She loves pepperoncinis. She eats them right out of the jar. There's no reason for it. She just eats them like they're candy.
Yeah, it was an interesting taste. You could smell it and taste it, but it still had that power of the triple. So interesting brew for sure. And
you're not a podcaster. You're not a blogger. You're not a movie person as far as media goes. What's your love of movies? Where's that come from?
Actually, it came from Concord High, taking the film study course with Bob Hutter and Merle Drown. I don't know if you remember those guys.
I remember Hutter. I had Mr. Hutter in film studies.
Yeah,
he hated me too.
They were a great team teaching duo, and they put the love of movies into me. I mean, I've always loved movies as a kid, but it made it amazing because all the little tricks and techniques, studying Hitchcock and Orson Welles and that sort of thing made me a lover.
Yeah, absolutely. I took the same class. They were the ones that we were just talking about off air, where we had a lot of take-home tests because you would go home and watch a movie and then write an essay, and I wouldn't. And then I would come in and do a final and get like a 98, and they really disliked that. So, let's move on to the actual game. But I'm really glad to have you here, Ben. East Coast representing. Always good to have a hometown person here. That will not affect the voting, Jake, so don't get upset. He always thinks I'm trying to screw him out of stuff ever since I told him that Harrison Ford cannot be James T. Kirk. So here are the rules. They're pretty basic. I'm going to show an actor and the character. You are going to give me a choice, and the best choice gets a point. If perchance you happen to get my secret selection, you will get an additional point. Sometimes my secret selection is not the best choice. I know that's hard to believe, but sometimes that happens. So there is a chance to separate points and to get double points. It all depends. You may not get any additional points if nobody picks the secret selection. Person with the most points wins. And if there's a tie, we will go to the double feature to win, and I will give those instructions if we get to a double feature. Before we start, I do want to thank our additional judges, Brendan Agnew and Zaki Hassan. Both of them will be featured in January as we do Biopic Month. Agnew is doing Amadeus, and Zaki Hassan, we just recorded today, A Beautiful Mind. So you can listen to both of them in previous episodes, but definitely in January. As always, every episode of the CastOFF is sponsored by the main podcast, Matinee Heroes. And this week we have someone you know, Jake, Tracy Magnum, and James Owen on to talk about A Muppet Christmas Carol. It was a fantastic discussion. We recorded it before they found the secret song that was missing and now put it back. We talked about it at length about how it was missing, and the very next day, they found it. So it's been missing for 20 years. We talk about it for 10 minutes, and they ruin the whole episode by finding it the next day. So you can go to matineeheroes.com/subscribe to the podcast, where you can, if you want to listen to the podcast. But if you want to join the video stream, you can head over to matineeheroes.com/castoff, where you have links to YouTube, to Twitch, all the great places where you can watch CastOFF. All right, gentlemen, are you ready to go to Knives Out?
Let's do it.
Ready.
The excitement is palpable. I think they've been stunned into silence. So we're going to start off with obviously the star of the show, Daniel Craig, as Benoit Blanc. So Jake, you have the highest seating. You get to go first. Who do you have playing Detective Benoit Blanc?
Yeah, this movie from top to bottom is really hard to recast for me because I love it so much. But I would have never cast Daniel Craig in this role, and he does it brilliantly. I wanted someone that could be that same kind of quirky that he is, that the character is, still have a southern drawl a little bit to their speech, and pull that off really well. I went with Matthew McConaughey for my pick.
Well, all right. We've got him here. We got him. He can do almost anything because he can do something real drama like Dallas Buyers Club. But then he was just in last week's Tropic Thunder that we redid, where he plays a snivelly little weasel. And then, of course, he made his hay as a romantic lead in all these bad rom-coms in the 90s and the early aughts with, like, How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. But if you looked, I had to find a picture with him with an ascot because I wanted him to be as pretentious as possible, like Benoit Blanc.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect.
That's
Unless
a good
you can
one
find
right
him
there.
with suspenders and a tie,
Sir, he's going to do his Kentucky Fried accent, sir.
Exactly.
So that goes on to Ben. Ben, who do you have representing I don't even know if he's from Kentucky because he says he is, but that is not a Kentucky accent. That is just weird. Who do you have playing the detective?
Yeah, I didn't think he was that believable. And I agree. I don't think I would have cast him either. I went with somebody that would play it a little bit more subtly. And I went with Liam Neeson. And he pulled off that Southern accent in Next of Kin.
Yes, he did.
And he can be, that hard edge like in Taken. So That's what I
Yeah,
went
absolutely. And like I once heard a comedian who was talking about how you can do his accent, and if you do an impression of him, you just got to find the one word, and he says, "Banana." It's
Bananas.
Liam Neeson. He's got a certain set of skills, and they are.
Yep.
He's got an amazing range because he is crushingly, devastatingly awesome in Schindler's List. He was amazing in The Grey, and Rob Roy. He was not even bad in Krull, but all of those movies you can find at matineeheroes.com just by googling their names in the archives. So Liam Neeson, that is a good strong start, especially a more subtle accent. So we have Matthew McConaughey, Liam Neeson. I was looking for a Billy Bob Thornton type because I think he's got the southern accent, he's got the gravitas, and he's got the I don't really care about anybody disposition. But the judges went with Liam Neeson. So, Ben, you get the first point. Nice start.
Nice.
Now we get to Chris Evans as Hugh Ransom Drysdale. America's Ass. Chris Evans. I want to say Chris Hemsworth. Chris Evans. So, Ben, you get to go first this time. Who do you have playing the smug, condescending frat boy that Chris Evans plays?
Yeah, I think he hammed it up for this character, and I think a better choice would have been Oscar Isaac. Just that able to manipulate, especially out of Ex Machina. I think he did a really great job, and I just think it would have been a little bit more believable.
Yeah, he's good in everything. That's why he's Money in the Bank, because whether he's Poe Dameron or he is even Apocalypse, the movie was awful, and they gave him not a great part, but he was good in it. He did his best. He's good in everything. So I think that's a real strong pick. Jake, can you beat that?
I hope so. I don't want to go down 2-0, so we'll see. But here's the thing, Craig. Chris's in Hollywood right now are a dime a dozen. So I thought I'll just sub out one Chris for another. And I went with someone who I thought could look like a trust fund baby and pull that part off really well. And I went with Chris Pine to replace Chris Evans in this one.
Absolutely. He's one of the Chris's, as we said. I really liked him in Wonder Woman. And, of course, he was I guess you'd call him Peter Parker Prime in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And then, of course, just to show that he has range and he is extra talented, he can sing. He was in Into the Woods. Not a great movie, but he was surprisingly effective in that. So we have Oscar Isaac, Chris Pine. I was looking for a Sean William Scott because he is, every time I see him, I just think of entitled punk. I'm sure he's not, but that's how I thought. The judges decided on Oscar Isaac. So Ben does what Jake does not want and goes up 2-0.
Oh boy.
So Jake, next we move on to the lovely Ana de Armas as Marta Cabrera, which is interesting enough because she and Daniel Craig will be together in To Live and Die in L.A. What the hell's the new one called? No Time to Die?
Yeah, No Time to Die.
So I'm hoping she plays not a love interest, but maybe a secret daughter, because if it's kind of creepy to watch him go from Knives Out, where he's very fatherly and protective of her, to James Bond, where he's then going to be trying to get into her pants. That's not right. So who do you have playing the lovely Marta Cabrera?
Yeah, and Marta's the heart of the show, I think. And I needed someone who would be able to steal the screen like she does, like Ana de Armas does. And so I went with a young Selma Hayek for this role.
And I had to search for a young Selma Hayek picture. She's very lovely. She's now known as like the seductress. She usually plays some kind of vampire who's going to kill somebody. But she's very good in Frida. Desperado, Dusk Till Dawn, when she made her money with Robert Rodriguez. And even she can do a dud like Wild Wild West once in a while. So, very strong opening bid. Ben.
I think I was going with somebody that can be really quiet and yet a strong character. And I was thinking of Elizabeth Peña in Tortilla Soup. I kind of forget the whole I Married Dora phase, but the Tortilla Soup where she she totally plays that same kind of character, like very innocent, caring person, and then she kind of surprises people at the end.
Now, I'm hoping I got the right Elizabeth Peña, because she was the it girl in the 80s in a lot of movies, like Down Beverly Hills. She played a lot of maids, unfortunately, but she was very talented. She's no longer with us, but it's very nice. This was a great pick. Where did this one come from? Where did the Elizabeth Peña come from? Because that's not something that's readily available for a lot of us.
I think I watched Tortilla Soup last month,
and
it was like still in my brain. So
hey, good for you, man. All right, so we've got Selma Hayek, Elizabeth Peña. I was thinking of Diane Guerrero, and if you don't know who she is in the new Doom Patrol. She plays the multi-personality, crazy, the kind of the crux of the whole show, and she was also in Orange Is the New Black. So the judges conferred, and Selma Hayek won. Jake, you got a point. It is now 1-2. Now we get to, I think, is my favorite character in all of this, because she plays such a strong, won't take any crap kind of woman, and that's Jamie Lee Curtis. So Ben, who do you have playing she's not really the matriarch, but she is the matriarchal type character of the family?
Well, I see that strong character, and I was going for Anjelica Huston, especially from Royal Tenenbaums.
Which we just did a few weeks ago. Yeah.
Great movie. And she's just a really strong character, and just that gaze that she has is just very intimidating. So I think she could have pulled it off.
Yeah, because Jamie Lee Curtis looked like a sexy Barbara Bush in this, and I think Anjelica Huston, she can look like a very intimidating, but very beautiful and very angry. She's good. She's really good at kicking people out of places and yelling at them, which is, I guess, is one of her special skills. Jake.
Yeah, I'm still trying to get sexy Barbara Bush out of my head, so thank you for that, Craig.
Am I wrong?
No, that's the problem. So I wanted a strong lead as well here, and I went a little bit more subdued, someone who is more quietly angry, but with a glance she could kill you. I went with Michelle Pfeiffer.
Absolutely. Michelle Pfeiffer, underrated, I think, because a lot of people just think she was really pretty, but she's super talented. She can sing from Grease 2. She's playing dual characters in Batman Returns as the quiet, mousy, no pun intended, mousy Selena Kyle, but yet the sultry, exotic Catwoman. And then, of course, we see her now with Ant-Man and the Wasp, and we always got to throw in a Harrison Ford movie when we can, What Lies Beneath. So Anjelica Huston, Michelle Pfeiffer. If I want a strong woman to represent me, I'm going with the sexiest one I know, Sigourney Weaver. I think all three are strong choices. Our judges conferred, and this was probably the closest vote of all of them. Michelle Pfeiffer wins, which brings Jake up to a tie.
Whew.
Jake, you can stop sweating, or at least dial it down just a bit. You're starting to shine over there.
We'll see what the next pick does. I'm nervous about the next pick. So,
when we move on to Michael Shannon as Walt Thromby. Now, Michael Shannon's known to be an intimidating, angry, forceful guy, but in this one, he's kind of another little Weasley guy. So it was fun to see him play a weak character, because he doesn't seem like he's a weak guy. So, Jake, who do you have playing the put-upon son who had a chance to take over the business, but his dad said no?
Yeah, for me, this was all about, through the whole movie, he's got this angry, furrowed eyebrow look going on because he is angry. He's pissed at his dad not giving him the business. And I thought, who could pull that off? To me, it looked and sounded like Jack Black through the whole movie. So that's who I went with, was Jack Black for this character.
Well, sure. He was just in Tropic Thunder from last week. He was good in the School of Rock and all the Jumanji sequels, where he's got to play a teenage girl in the body of Jack Black, which, I mean, being a middle-aged guy with the body of Jack Black, I'd be devastated. So I can't imagine what a teenage girl would feel like. But very strong. Ben, what do you got?
I too went with someone that can look angry and doesn't have to say very much. Although when he does say something, his voice is very authoritative, much like Michael Shannon. I went with Danny Huston.
What I like about this pick is that he is Angelica's brother. And he is a Huston. He's always known for menacing bad guys, where he was in Wonder Woman and in Wolverine. But he's also going to play a nice guy in Child of Men and The Aviator. He can play actual people, too. So I think that's a strong pick. Man, Jake, this guy's coming on out of nowhere.
Yeah,
he's got
he's
some
doing
magic
great.
beer going on over there. I like his picks. We got Jack Black, Danny Huston. I was looking for a Jason Bateman type because I feel like Walt Thrombey is a very unsuccessful Michael from Arrested Development or a Bluth. So I felt like he was always put upon. He was always doing the right thing, and he never got any reward for it. Well, the judges talked and decided, and against better wishes, they decided Jack Black. I thought Danny Huston would have been a slam dunk, but I was overruled.
Wow.
So I'm going to have to talk
I mean,
to
I'm
Brendan
not
and
sad
Zach.
that they overruled it, but it's a great pick.
Yeah, Jake. So Jake takes the lead 3-2. So now we move on to the lovely Toni Collette, who's playing Joni Thrombey. Ben, who do you have playing? I guess it's like a Gwyneth Paltrow wannabe who is just mooching off everybody. Toni Collette's Joni.
Yeah, for this role, I swapped one Australian actress for another. I went with Cate Blanchett.
Oh, you can't go wrong with Cate Blanchett. She is what we call an ethereal juggernaut, which means her talent is infinite. But when you see her, she seems like very angelic, like in the Lord of the Rings movies when she's playing Elizabeth. Even Gila was very otherworldly, but Cate Blanchett is rock solid. Even in Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull. Oh, God, that was an awful movie.
Yeah.
Now I'm sad. Thanks, Ben.
You just had to throw in that Harrison Ford movie.
I know. Up until he gets thrown out of the refrigerator, it's okay. So, Jake, who do you have?
Yeah, I needed someone who could have that look because she looks disgusted at everything throughout the whole movie because everybody's just out to get her. So I went with Mary Louise Parker for this one.
This one's also a good
I felt
pick.
like she had that look that I needed for this role.
Because she's usually known for being a spunky go-getter. She made her hay in the 80s and 90s with things like Fried Green Tomatoes and The Client. But I guess she really hit everybody's attention in Weeds, which I have not seen. But I know it's a big enough juggernaut that she won Emmys for it, and it was really good. So two really good picks. So we got Cate Blanchett. We got Mary Louise Parker. I was looking for Leslie Mann types. I like her. She's from she's Judd Apatow's wife, but so she's in almost every Judd Apatow movie. But she in the what was it? Not the 40-Year-Old Virgin, and not Knocked Up. She's in both. She is in 40-Year-Old Virgin. She's the one that throws up all over Steve Carell. So the judges talked and hashed it out, and Mary Louise Parker, which Jake, now you've taken a commanding 2-point lead. It's 4-2. You are still in this, Ben, because there is still 2 potential points on the board, of which if you get both of them, you have tied, and that could happen. You've definitely been doing some strong picks. So here's your chance, Jake. We've got the immense, unwielding genius of Christopher Plummer. Only recently, because he's been in a lot of movies on the podcast recently, and he's been handsome up until probably this movie where he starts to finally look old. He still looks good, but he's like 102. But up until then, he's always been that dashing, exotic professor type. Who do you have playing Harlan Thrombey, the whole crux of the mystery?
Yeah, I wanted someone who could really play that. Someone who had the range to be the kind, loving grandpa figure to Marta, but at the same time could be the tough father figure to all the Thrombeys and cut them out of his will like he planned to do. And you know who I think could do that is Gene Hackman.
Absolutely, because Gene Hackman is now an old retired novelist. That's what he does now. Mm-hmm. He writes novels. He's known for being Gene effing Hackman. I don't have to explain much more. He's in Unforgiven, Superman the movie, The Royal Tenenbaums, The Quick and the Dead, 600 other things, but all of those movies, once again, can be found at Matinee Heroes because we have covered Gene Hackman. We are diehard Gene Hackman fans. So that moves on to Ben. Now, Ben, Gene Hackman's hard to beat in any situation. Even for, Joni Thromby, I would have put Gene Hackman in there. Who do you have to play Harlan?
I went with someone, I think a little bit more grandfatherly than Gene Hackman, but still a very serious actor. I went with Richard Harris. That whole, the first Dumbledore and the Emperor and Gladiator.
Yeah, he's Richard effing Harris. Also from Unforgiven. Very interesting that you guys went to Unforgiven to get your... I'm surprised you didn't pick Clint Eastwood.
It is.
Because I guess he's not very happily grandfatherly, despite the fact of him having like 16 grandkids. This one is fantastic. You both picked two of the best people in the world. So there's Gene Hackman, Richard Harris. Now, it doesn't matter what my pick is yet, because if you don't get the right one here, Ben, it doesn't matter what mine is. So... they talked about it, and the streak continues as Gene Hackman is picked. And this one, I would say that every single vote was won by percentage points, like 0.1, because this was fantastic. But that leaves us with Jake. A fantastic job, Jake. You are the winner. Well, congratulations.
Well, thank you very much. That's awesome. Great job, Ben. Those were some awesome picks. I was definitely sweating it at the beginning there, and really throughout. They were all just so solid. For my final thought, I love this movie. I want to say that it's one of my favorite movies. But I also want to plug March 8th through the 13th, Stolen Droids is doing Utah Remote Con 2, which is a virtual pop culture convention. We'll have some great panels that we're putting together. Craig, you were a guest last time. We're hoping that you'll be willing to come back and be a guest for us again. But it's just a lot of fun. It's free, and we are raising money for the American Cancer Society. So we definitely want to plug that.
Well, you know me. My theory is if I'm asked, I go. So I'm definitely going to be there. The pay, I can't really, argue with the pay. But what are you going to do? It's for charity. Yeah. It's always fun.
Yeah.
Well,
that's how we get them. It's almost for charity. So.
Well, thank you guys so much. You guys were fantastic. One last time before we go, if you liked what you've seen, follow us on Matinee Heroes. You can watch us on twitch.tv/Matinee Heroes or join the Facebook group. Also, head over to matineeheroes.com/castoff. I am not going to tell you what the movie is for the next one because the first round is over. Next week, we will do a recap/preview show where we will talk about who won, who's moved forward, some of the things to look forward to. We've got a bracket that we've got to talk about that's been decimated for some of the entrants, and some people it's going to be tight as we go down to the final four. But on behalf of my guest Ben Jones and today's winner Jake Dietz, I'm Craig Price, and we will see you next week.